Now, when you say that 95% of a person's actions are habitual, where do you think those habits reside? Again, nervous system memory. As associations, they are literally stored in the network of neurons with the synapses, myelinated neurons, etc. Now, the brain and nervous system can process information around 11 million bits per second. When you want to change behavior, that's what's at play. Change the behavior, you change the outcome. When you start approaching cognitive development the same way you approach physical activity development, you'll begin to see breakthroughs, and you'll see them fast. You'll no longer think people can't change. They can, but they have to want it. And as the owner or senior leader, you provide the context and the roadmap. You get them what they need by giving them what they want. Let's take a look at a few examples of how internalizing a cognitive skill can change the outcomes of a business. I'm talking about leaders, but it applies to frontline people. As much as I'm going to be talking about leaders, you could think about what's the capability to do some rapid testing, to build landing pages, to have quality video done. I know you can use AI, but you also probably know that there's benefits of using real people. Now, there's hundreds of principles, models, and frameworks, but you only need a handful that work in your organization to make major differences. Now, one example I like to use, it's been around since the 1960s. You don't hear much about it, but it works especially well when working with artificial intelligence, and that's MECE. M-E-C-E. Mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. Now, this is a consulting model, but see, one of the things that's happening now, as organizations flatten and they're using more and more artificial intelligence, a lot of the frameworks and models that were pretty much in the domain of consultants need to be used at the front line. There's another thing that's going on. If you just go back a couple of decades, change was very slow. Even after the internet in the 90s and .com, that era, they were much faster than before, but nothing like what we're seeing today. The speed that things are coming and changing, we have to have these skills at the front line. As leaders and decision makers, you have to have models and frameworks to keep you from getting triggered. Let me just take a look at this MECE model. So what you have, again, mutually exclusive, collectively exhausted. And it's very helpful because when you get into discussions, you're designing something, and oftentimes we're designing into the field of infinite possibilities, and we're having to do research on the fly. There's a lot of unknowns. There's unknown unknowns, and there's known unknowns, et cetera, right? So we have to be able to keep things framed in such a way so that we're making progress and not spinning our wheels or just repeating the same conversations. So what you have here in this example, this is idea 1 and idea 2. These are not exclusive, right? Because there's overlap. To be exclusive, they would be separate. And so you're not going to use MECE on every single thing, but certainly when you're interacting with artificial intelligence and it's throwing suggestions at you, and next thing you know, you're working for it, and it feels like, right?